Let's bring in Leon Panetta. He served as the former defense secretary and former CIA director during the Obama administration. Thanks so much for being here. Appreciate it. Both Biden and Netanyahu are facing considerable political pressure as the war continues. What's your reaction to Biden telling Netanyahu that an immediate ceasefire is needed?
Well, I think it was very important to make that request that if anything is needed right now, it is an immediate ceasefire. It is an effort to try to exchange the hostages, and it is an effort to try to improve humanitarian aid. Look, I think, this war has gone on for almost 6 months. And I think to some extent, both President Biden and Netanyahu have been talking past each other when it comes to their concerns. I think that's changed. I hope that's changed today as a result of what happened with these aid workers and as a result of this conversation, that they understand that things cannot continue the way they've been.
What is your response when you criticize how Israel is conducting this war, and you hear from supporters of Israel, as I do, Hamas is dedicated to the destruction of Israel. It's right in their charter. Hamas started this on October 7th with their attack on civilians and their kidnapping. Hamas could end this war today if they turned over the hostages and surrendered, which is traditionally what you do when you're losing. And Hamas doesn't care about the lives of the Palestinian people. I'm not disputing any of those claims. But what's your response when people say that, as if that means Israel can conduct the war any way it wants?
Well, I think that's the answer. It doesn't give them a license to not pay attention to humanitarian needs, not pay attention to not misfiring on innocent aid workers. It doesn't give them a license to basically not pay attention to the larger issue here, which is, are you going to get a ceasefire? Are you going to be able to get your hostages exchanged? And are you going to be able to establish real lines of communication for humanitarian aid? No one questions Israel's right to defend themselves. No one questions their right to go after Hamas. That's understandable. We went after al-Qaeda after 9/11. Nobody questioned the fact that we could go after them. But we also went after them in a targeted way. It took a long time, but we eventually got those that were responsible for 9/11. The same thing can happen with Israel if they use targeted efforts to go after Hamas, and if they do it in a way that does realize that humanitarian aid is necessary here in order to save lives.
Today, Secretary of State Blinken said that if the U.S. does not see changes by the Israeli military and the Israeli government to take further steps to protect innocent civilians in Gaza, there will be changes in our own policy. That's the quote. There will be changes in our own policy. Like what? What do you think the U.S. should do if Netanyahu and the IDF continue to wage the war in a way that Biden disapproves of?
Well, look, I don't think there's any question that we'll have to apply conditions to the military aid that we're providing to Israel. Congress is already considering that possibility. So I think it's pretty clear that if they just continue as they are now, and we see no change with regards to how they're dealing with humanitarian aid, how they're dealing with innocent victims there in Gaza, then I think there is no question in my mind, but we're going to start having to apply condition. And that will make it that much more difficult on Israel to conduct this war. But it is the consequence of not working with us to try to deal with what happened in that horrific attack, to make sure that we are paying attention to innocent lives.
Is there any way that Netanyahu will conduct this war in a way more pleasing to the President of the United States and the Biden administration, as long as Netanyahu depends upon the participation in his government of these right-wing zealots, Ben-Gvir and Smotrich, these individuals who want Palestinians to leave Gaza, who want to take the West Bank and make it part of Israel, who are anti-Arab racists. I mean, Netanyahu depends on their participation in his government for his political survival. Is there any way forward, as long as he cares more about them, Netanyahu caring more about Smotrich and Ben-Gvir, than he cares about Biden?
Look, there's one thing that Netanyahu will pay attention to, which is whether or not he will survive. He is a survivor. I think the first time I met Netanyahu, it was back in the Clinton administration. And throughout that period of time, somehow he's always been able to survive. I think his biggest concern is his political situation in Israel. There are now 100,000 people who are demonstrating in Israel because they want a ceasefire and they want to see the hostages exchanged. I think ultimately, if Netanyahu does not change the way he's dealing with the situation, that it is going to end his term as prime minister. So that is the one thing that I think is an incentive for Netanyahu to change.
When I spoke with you near the start of the Israeli ground invasion in Gaza, you said that you were confident it would be, quote, a well-planned operation, not something that they pull out of their hat, unquote. We're now almost at the 6-month mark of this war. Tens of thousands of innocent Palestinians have been killed. The UN is warning of a catastrophic famine because not enough aid has been allowed into Gaza. Did you anticipate the scale of the humanitarian crisis that we're seeing?
No, I really thought that this war would move a lot faster than it did. And what we've seen now is almost 33,000 lives of innocent Palestinians that have been lost. But at the same time, look, Israel has made progress with regards to dealing with Hamas. Hamas does not have the capability, at least at this point, to conduct another October 7th attack. But what I never sensed was that there was a clear mission that had been established that it would be clear could be achieved by Israel. Netanyahu keeps saying we're going to destroy Hamas. Look, you're not going to destroy Hamas. Hamas is going to be around. What you can destroy is the leadership that was involved by Hamas in the attack on October 7th. And I don't think he's made that clear, that ultimately this is about killing the leadership of Hamas, not just wiping out Hamas. If we had a better sense of mission here, I think we'd have a better sense of how this war could come to an end.
Leon Panetta, thank you so much, as always, for your time.
Good to be with you.